this, please like this, please like this.
Hi everybody, I'm Mark.
I'm Valentina.
And this is Please Like This, a podcast where we discuss pop culture that one of us loves and the other one never got around to. And today we're going to be discussing the 1976 version of A Star is Born, a movie about Chris Christopherson doing an impression of Bradley Cooper doing an impression of Sam Elliott.
Okay.
Is
That's
that
your
bad?
tagline?
Is that bad? It's the thing I thought of.
It's not bad.
A movie about Barbra Streisand wearing suits.
From her own closet.
I know!
I loved that.
The clothes...
In the credits it says like Miss Streisand's clothing from her closet.
With like a ... Like
yeah. That was good.
Okay. So, every week one of us picks a thing to talk about, and this week I have picked this movie.
Mm-hmm.
This movie, so.
Okay. So, Mark, this is your pick. You picked the movie for this episode.
Yeah, and this will be releasing around Valentine's Day, because this is a romantic tragedy.
Yeah, that was going to be my first question. Why did you pick this for Valentine's Day? This isn't going to be released on Valentine's Day, but it's going to be like a couple days before, so we decided to
romance,
theme it.
Lovey-dovey, and this is not lovey-dovey, this is not comedy, this
isn't romantic. Like, we should have done, like...
No, this is my true feelings on Valentine's Day and love.
Okay.
Love is tragic and brutal. I honestly do not know.
That's why you've been divorced 4 times.
You're right. You're right. My name is Esther Hoffman or whatever. So, okay. To get it, so... I'm trying to work up how to explain this to you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just start with your background.
Okay, well, while watching this movie, I realized I have never seen it the full way through.
Mark!
The premise of this podcast completely failed on it. And can I tell you why I felt like I had seen it the whole way through, and I always thought it was romantic?
Yeah? Why?
Is because this is one of my mom's favorite movies.
Uh-huh.
And
Did you confuse it with The Way We Were?
No.
Okay, thank goodness.
Because she has this album. She had this album in her car.
Uh-huh.
And when I was a kid, for whatever reason, there's a very specific couple months where this album really played into my memory. And it was...
the soundtrack of this movie was the soundtrack of your couple months?
Yes. I was like 11. And I grew up in a small town in Florida. And we have this big celebration in November called the Harvest Festival.
Yes.
That's put on by...
I've heard stories.
Yes, it's put on by a small Catholic school, my small Catholic school. It's a big fundraiser. It's a big event. The food's great. The rides are great. It was a ever-present part of my childhood. That for a month, and it wasn't just oh, I'll go to the Harvest Festival. We were one of the families helping to build everything for the festival,
mm-hmm.
and organizing it, and there were parties afterward. So, for the end of October into late November, that time period was always taken up by this event. And right before we started gearing up for this event, my mom put this CD in the car, and I have a specific memory of her talking about how romantic this movie is and how much she loves this movie, and she loves Barbra Streisand in this movie.
Okay.
And
I agree with her on that.
And so the soundtrack, and also like the soundtrack is very romantic.
Yeah.
a lot of the songs are very romantic and lovely. And I specifically remember the Everywhere and I'll have not everywhere. The and I'll have everything, everything. She sings it when she's in the first jazz club, but after the Queen Bee song. And those two songs right at the beginning of the soundtrack are like the biggest memories for me. So that conversation, listening to this album over and over again that does have some beautiful romantic songs on it, and also the time period of like a chilly fall and you're going to a festival and it's beautiful, and then you come home and you're listening to Barbra Streisand and Chris Christopherson. It was a very specific mood that I remember being very beautiful. And then I a couple months later, my mom was like, Mark, you have to watch this movie. It's on right now.
Uh-huh.
And so I definitely watched the first half of this movie.
Okay.
And I've watched it several times. And then I think right before...
half.
Yes. And so I think right when stuff starts really going downhill, my mom either changed the channel or sent me away, and I forgot about that.
So, the part of this movie that makes the story A Star Is Born is the part that you had never seen before.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Perfect. This is going to be our best episode. I'm honestly I am actually very glad that you were not like a die-hard fan of this movie in its entirety. And I was going to have to sit here like, Mark, what were you thinking?
No, this movie's,
What are your initial thoughts now that you've seen it the full way through?
My initial thoughts are Barbra Streisand's fabulous.
Yes.
Chris Christopherson did a pretty good job. This movie is kind of a mess.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, in a lot of scenes, it feels like, they were like, go ahead, improvise. And then they kept in, like, every good improvised line in every time they did a scene and just put them, like, right back next to each other. Even if it didn't make sense.
Yeah. Okay, actually, before we get too into it, okay, here, I'll do my background. So, obviously, there are 4 versions of A Star Is Born.
Oh yeah, if you don't know,
versions of A Star Is Born. There's the 1937 one with Janet Gaynor. That's a black and white film. It is about 2 actors, and they're acting, and that's it. It's the only one that's not a musical. That is the only one. I have seen that one, and I've seen it a few years ago. I like it. It's a good movie. If you like Janet Gaynor, I recommend it. Then there's the 1954 version with Judy Garland. That is 3 hours long.
Jeez.
It is Technicolor. It's directed by George Cukor, one of my favorite directors. It is not one of my favorite movies by him. I've seen it now. It's the first one. It's Janet. It's Judy Garland and James Mason, I think, is the one who plays Norman Maine in it. Mm. And they are actors, but like they're acting in studio films. And so Judy Garland in the 50s is also like, she's acting in studio filmed musicals. So that was the first one to introduce music. And that's like a couple of Judy Garland's standards were introduced in that movie, like The Man That Got Away. And,
I got it. And
it's an amazing scene. Still, like, the opening lines of that song when she sings, I just start to cry.
Is bitter, the stars have lost their glitter.
And then there's this version, the 1976 version with Barbra Streisand and Chris Christopherson. Famously a mess.
Yeah.
It's the first version to make them just singers instead of actors. And then there's the 2018 one with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga, which we won't get into too much.
We might
At
talk
least,
about it.
I assume we'll talk a little bit about it.
It might
but-
come up. It might come up in comparisons.
Yeah, and then that one
This
also
episode
keeps
might-
them.
This episode might just end up being us talking about the idea of the A Star Is Born narrative.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have thoughts.
Yeah. Cool.
And then one specific other movie might come up as well. Just a little hint. Yeah.
Okay.
So then
Adam's Family Values.
Yeah.
I always want to bring up that movie.
Yes.
They're great. Unnecessary to this.
Yeah, completely unrelated. So I had seen the 1937 one with Janet Gaynor a few years ago. And then when the 2018 one came out, I saw that in theaters.
Did we see it together?
No, that was...
No, we didn't. I saw it with my friend from high school.
Talked on the phone right after I saw it.
Did we really?
Yes. So the 2018 one came out a week after I moved to Charleston. It was the first movie that I saw in Charleston. It was the first time that I hung out with my new roommate. And we went to see it together. And we were both very upset by the movie. She had never seen any of the Star Is Borns. I knew the story, but I was like hoping that this one would change it up a little bit. And it didn't. And we were both very upset by the movie. And we went home, went to our separate bedrooms, and I think I watched Gilmore Girls. And because I think like we both saw it that night.
That makes sense.
Or like you saw it the day after. Maybe we talked the day after. Whatever. In that weekend, we talked about it.
Yeah. As we do when what has led to this, us making this podcast is
yes. Again, we've been friends for a while.
We're friends. This is real.
These conversations are our life, our actual friendship.
Yeah.
I had never seen this 1976 version of A Star Is Born. But I had listened to the You Must Remember This podcast episode about it like 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay, great.
So I knew the background of
the
it
history
being
of
a
it
mess.
being a mess and everyone hating each other and fighting and yelling.
Yeah, and like Barbra Streisand and John Peters' relationship and like and then also I listened to the You Must Remember This series on Polly Platt, who was a producer on this movie. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I knew the background of this movie. I had never seen it. I never really wanted to. And now I have.
So, that's our backstory to this.
Yeah. Okay, I do not hate this movie. I feel like that sounds like I hate this movie. I do not hate it. I just have issues with this movie specifically and the story it's telling in general.
Yeah.
Let's do a quick summary before I get into those.
Okay. Well, if you're unfamiliar with the Star Is Born narrative, all of them follow an aging actor who's kind of starting to fall apart at the seams. I have not seen the first two versions, but in the 1976 version and in the 2018 version, alcoholism is destroying him and his career because he's out of control. And he goes to a bar or a club and sees a young woman performer who is the star of A Star Is Born. And she does something that catches his eye. They fall in love. He is already famous and brings her into the famous sphere.
Yeah, like as they get romantically involved, he also like helps her get her career started. Mm-hmm. And she becomes a big star as his star is falling because of his alcoholism and sometimes drug addiction. Yep.
And as her star rises, their relationship breaks apart in many ways, fractures, and even though they love each other, it's just not working. And eventually, the older star dies, kills himself in most of the iterations, and in this one it's kind of hazier whether or not he explicitly kills himself or if he was on drugs and was just being reckless because he was sad. It's hard to...
I think having seen all of them, I think the only one that makes it completely explicit that this was an intentional suicide, even though he was under the influence of drugs and alcohol, was the 2018 one with Bradley Cooper, where he hangs himself with his dog watching.
Jesus Christ, I hated that. Anyway, we're gonna discuss our problems with the Star is Born narrative, and I think this episode may just kind of become
all A Star is Born.
Yeah, picking apart the narrative and our discussion and our feelings about it.
Yeah.
But and yeah, so that's the general plot. In this one, it's Barbra Streisand and Chris Christopherson as Barbra as the young star. Chris Christopherson, who is a legendary country singer. He was in The Highwaymen. He wrote.
Oh yeah, I was like, wait, he's not a country singer in this movie.
He's not a country singer. Yeah, he's a rock star in this movie.
Yeah, Christopherson, musical legend.
Yes.
Songwriting legend specifically.
He wrote Me and Bobby McGee.
Yeah, which is surprising that he did not have a hand. No, I think Barbra wrote one of the songs. Yeah. Chris Christopherson wrote none of the songs involved in this movie.
No.
He is only performing this movie.
Yeah, it's very strange. And it's set in the 70s. Chris Christopherson is a rock star. Barbra Streisand kind of works at a jazz club. They meet, they fall in love. She becomes a star. She wins a Grammy. He embarrasses himself at the Grammys in a much more palatable way than it happens in the 2018 movie. Mm-hmm. And eventually, Barbra comes back to their house after trying to build him up and trying to get his career back on the path, even though it's just falling apart, and discovers that he is cheating on her. They try and make it work, but he basically is like, I'm weighing you down. He gets drunk. He drives a car for many, many miles in the desert and crashes and dies. And then Barbra sings a show-stopping performance
at his funeral.
At his funeral, memorial.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not really clear, but...
Yeah. And that's the plot.
Yeah.
So where do should we start? I think we both want to have our discussion about the problems with the A Star is Born narrative as a whole, and then maybe we can get into the specifics of this problem, the movie, things we enjoyed about it, and things that we have problems with.
Okay, yeah, because I want to talk about the narrative in general that continues throughout all 4 versions, and then also what this movie does specifically with that narrative.
Yeah.
So, I'll say, so one of the things, Barbra Streisand was a producer on this movie. This was after she won her Oscar. Mm-hmm. I think she already had Grammys by now.
Yeah.
Barbra Streisand was a big star at this point.
Yes.
She was a producer in this movie, so obviously she had a hand in, making... She was able to have a hand in making this movie what she calls more feminist. Mm-hmm. And so there's little things like she's the one who proposes to him instead of the other way around, mm-hmm. Which is what happens in the first 2 versions. Then also the thing of she keeps her last name and just adds his last name after they get married.
Yeah.
That's something she wanted. She wears pantsuits a lot. She wears mm-hmm. pants during a lot of the movie, and she looks fabulous in all of them.
Yeah, all the clothes are incredible.
Yeah. That's something that she wanted specifically. She wanted to look like her, mm-hmm. even after, the whole star makeover.
Yeah.
And she dies.
Mm-hmm.
It's there's little things like that she wanted to include and change around to make it a more, I guess, progressive...
contemporary story in the 1970s.
Yeah.
By 1970s standards.
Yeah. And I guess that kind of brings me to there's no version of this story that's going to be as contemporary and progressive as Barbra Streisand wanted, because the point of this story is that a man can't handle his female partner's success.
Yeah. That's what the plot revolves around.
Yeah. And so...
And it's also not even just that, it's not even just like the man can't handle his female partner's success. It's like the man could never handle anything and was like solely being held aloft
Absolutely.
by an apparatus of
and like he always has people,
managers and
and there's always people around him that like managers and studio heads and like whatever enabling his alcoholism and drug addiction. Like in this one, Gary Busey, every time Chris Christopherson like walks into a room or walks onto a stage, like Gary Busey like gives him coke.
Yeah.
Like puts coke on his hand, gives his hand to Chris Christopherson to snort the coke off of.
As they're just having like a normal conversation.
Yeah.
About, like, are you ready to go? Are you ready to perform? Here's your coke. Like it's just
So like, and that happens in all of the versions as well. Like in the Bradley Cooper version, there's like people around him that always have alcohol accessible and give it to him when he wants it. In the Judy Garland version, like James Mason again is, I think the first two, the guy is just an alcoholic, and then the last two, there's also drugs involved.
Yeah, I also feel like he probably couldn't do drugs on camera in the 40s for like a major movie.
Yeah, I think 37 is like Hays Code era.
Yeah,
I think like after 35. So yeah. So like now I've seen all of them. I think the only one where this story really works is the oldest one.
Mm-hmm.
The first one. Where you can be like, oh, well, this was 1937.
Mm-hmm.
And then
a bit of a pass.
Yeah. Because like there's just a little bit of a pass that you give to all movies that old.
Yeah.
Of just like, okay. I mean, it was still shitty then, but it's not like the people in charge didn't consider it to be shitty, so it was accepted.
Yeah. I mean, my whole problem with the narrative is they're all called A Star Is Born, and then it's about the man.
Yeah.
And I don't think the man is an interesting character.
No, he's not.
He's not.
He's dumb. And it's boring and upsetting to watch a man with all the power that these characters are given destroy their lives with drugs and alcohol. And I know that is like I think this version and the 2018 version do treat like the male characters alcoholism seriously as like this is an actual issue,
an addiction.
Yeah. But it's still not like, I don't think the movie itself is condemning the character enough for it to be entertaining.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it's giving him a pass. And it's also often being like, in the two versions I've seen, the Chris Christopherson one and the Bradley Cooper one, it's often being like, it's okay because look how talented this person is.
Yeah.
But they're just falling apart almost every time we see them.
Mm-hmm. And so like forgetting lines to their songs on stage.
And we never see them in their prime.
Yeah.
And I think even seeing one performance of them when they were younger in their prime would add a lot to this story where we see like, oh, that's what they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Or something I think about when I was watching this version, and one of the problems I specifically remember happening the two main problems I had with the 2018 version, I do not have with this version. And
Okay.
the reasons being that I found the 2018 version to kind of be a show of Bradley Cooper's narcissism.
Yeah.
He should either have directed it or starred in it. He shouldn't have done both. Because
Yeah. It was self-indulgent.
Yeah, and it made the movie so much about him that it almost cut out the person most people are interested in seeing, Lady Gaga.
Yeah. Well, also, I think Bradley Cooper even wrote it or co-wrote
Yeah,
the
he
movie
wrote
too.
it.
So, like,
he did it all.
It's his movie, and Lady
Yes.
Gaga's just there, like, trying.
And does a great job, but it's trying.
Yes.
And then my thing is, while the 2018 version was kind of a showing of Bradley Cooper's narcissism, and I think hurt the movie in many ways, I think that this version of it is a little bit of a showing of Barbra Streisand's narcissism.
Yeah.
And I think that helps. I think in many ways it lessened my problem when we're focusing so much more on the woman.
Yeah, because my issue is, like, the whole structure of this movie is supposed to be as, like, the whole first half is more like the male character is the star, and then the second half is like the female character is the star.
Yeah.
And, like, in every single movie at about exactly the halfway point, they have, like, the big showcase of the female star that's like, a star is born. Like,
yeah,
at exactly
this is the
halfway.
moment.
Yeah. And that happens in this version. It happens in the 2018 version. It happened, like, in the Judy Garland version. Mark, if you haven't seen that full movie, which, I mean, it's 3 hours long.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's an investment. It's on my list.
But right before intermission, so, like, right before halfway, Judy Garland does, like, a 10-minute medley that is so fucking good. Like, I guarantee you have at least seen clips of that medley.
Oh, probably. What are the songs?
Oh, God, I don't even remember.
That's fine.
But she, like, does multiple costume changes. It's so good. And so then, and also in the 1937 version, Janet Gaynor is an actress, so, like, it's not as obvious, but I think, like, that at the halfway point is, like, when she gets her first movie, her big movie and stuff. That's the structure that each version is trying to put out, like, to fall into.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of them succeed. I think this one is the closest to it.
Interesting. Even over the Judy version?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because in the Judy version, obviously, like, Judy sings, and, like, James Mason does not. But, like, there's still so many scenes dedicated to, like, him being sad and depressed at home that it's like, we get the point.
Yeah.
We get the fucking point. I don't need to see any more of this guy just, like, being miserable that he's out of work and his wife is crushing it. Like, I get it. I don't care anymore. He's not helping himself. And I'm sorry, like, if I sound incredibly, like,
it's annoying.
Obtuse or whatever, but it's not entertaining.
Yeah. The most interesting part of all of this version and the 2018 ones are the first hour.
Yes.
And then the second hour is kind of like, what's going on here? And I think that this version does hold it together better. I do think that this version does hold it together better. The second half still has a lot of entertaining moments. At the very least, you're always looking at Barbra Streisand wearing something cool.
Yeah. And
it's beautiful. The scene... this movie is gorgeous.
Yes. Especially, like, the Tucson stuff.
Yes. You're always in this, like... They're doing everything in this stunning desert. Do they build their own home in this movie? What does...
Yeah. They do. They do.
They construct these two
That's
singers
what it's supposed
construct
to be.
a home. But just like the
out of
moment...
nothing on their honeymoon.
Yeah. And so you're engaged more.
I have two potential fixes.
Okay, I'd love to hear them.
Or at least like two pitches. Okay? Firstly, I think that the three latter versions that make it a musical is the smartest option.
Yes.
Because
we need the music.
Yeah, we need the music. It's hard to, like, even though I think the 1937 version is very good, it's still hard to watch actors act, like, pretend to act and, like, pretend to be a bad actor and then to, like, see their fictional progress. And, like, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's also sometimes boring for viewers.
Especially if you're going for realism.
Yeah. So I think this movie should just be... First off, every version is too long.
Yes.
It's too long. This version had...
Hour 45 max.
Yes. Okay, well, I think, like, no movie should be over 2 hours, but, like, especially if you're trying to do A Star is Born, you should not be doing over 2 hours. If you're going over 2 hours, you're giving too much attention to the guy, I guarantee it.
Yes, and I do think that this version, a lot of its length is padded out by just having long scenes of looking at things, which I think is much more of the time.
Yeah.
When it was harder to do cuts and everything. Like, I think if we were just looking at, like, dialogue.
Yeah. Well, also
this movie would be much shorter. Because I mean, how long was he driving at the end?
So long.
I
truly thought I was watching Lawrence of Arabia for a second.
Because you're in the desert and he's just driving and driving and driving, and you're like, is he gonna die? When is he gonna die?
It was so annoying. Okay. But so I think this story should be, if you're going to adapt it again, which no person on Earth ever should, but
someone
will
in 20 years.
Yeah.
Some person who's a baby now will star in it in 20 years.
Yeah.
And then, like, Timothy Chalamet will be the...
Oh, God.
Will be the Bradley Cooper.
I hope not. He can't sing. Can he sing?
I don't think so.
Oh, God. Okay. Whatever. I think this story structure should be an operetta.
Oh, an opera.
Where it's all musical, all sung, because that's the interesting stuff. And I think it's easier to give, like, balanced time to each, like, the male character and the female character. Mm-hmm. And that way we don't have so much annoying shit of just, like, watching a guy be miserable in his own home. That's not entertaining.
Yeah.
So that's my first pitch.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry. Okay. No. You go with your pitch and then I'll do my second one.
My main pitch is that, because the first hour of this movie works.
Yeah.
The first half of the story works as a movie in the iterations because it's entertaining, it's interesting. We're seeing this person rise, and then everything just plateaus while we watch this person be sad. Mm-hmm. And what I would much rather see is the first half of the movie focuses on the guy as we're seeing this woman star, like, break into this world, and then after her big moment, the focus and, like, the point of view character becomes her as her star keeps rising, and we see in the periphery him falling apart.
Yeah.
And the moments are less, we're watching every single moment of this guy falling apart as it ruins his life and destroys her. And it's more, we're seeing her rise and we're seeing her change because she should be the protagonist of this story because she is the one growing and changing.
And, like, I think the Grammys scene does that. The award show scene does that. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple other, like, major scenes. But it would work better
if it was just stuff happening in the background that comes to a head at the Grammys. Instead of
coming to a head of him dying.
Yeah. And so I think this movie would work better if we focus so much more on the woman on the star in the second half.
Yeah.
Because
I agree with you.
she is the person she's the person growing and changing.
And that's the person we care about.
And just the person we care about. In every iteration of this movie, she is the person that is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And because it gets bogged down in we have to follow the Star is Born narrative, they just let the man drag the second half down.
Yeah. So I think you're kind of like stepping towards my second pitch, which is stop watching A Star is Born and just watch Singing in the Rain instead. Because I realized this like a few months ago when I watched the Judy A Star is Born. The first half of this movie is Singing in the Rain. Or like Singing in the Rain is the first half of this movie. And then like you don't have the second half that's the boring stuff. And like Singing in the Rain is perfect. And like Singing in the Rain is Gene Kelly is the big star. And then he discovers Debbie Reynolds at a party, like when she's doing like a singing performance, whatever. And
it's like the same.
Yeah, it is truly the same. And then like they get together and hang out, and he helps her get her career off the ground and like gets her involved in the studio that he works at, and like puts her in the movie that he's working on. And like so in Singing in the Rain, if you don't know that story, Debbie Reynolds' character then like voices over the female lead in the fictional movie that Gene Kelly is starring in.
Yeah, and then they drop the curtain and they see that she's the one singing.
Yeah, and then at the end, it's the big reveal of like, Debbie Reynolds is the one that you've been hearing this whole time. She is a big star, and she gets like this huge standing ovation at the movie premiere, which is the equivalent of the Grammys, or like what should be the equivalent of the Grammys, or like that intermission number.
Yeah.
Of like, this is like a star has been born.
Mm-hmm.
But like in Singing in the Rain, Gene Kelly is one, not an alcoholic, and two, supportive of Debbie Reynolds the whole way. So it's good and fun and happy and entertaining every second of the way. So like
in this movie, in these
just watch
stories...
Singing in the Rain.
So we found our recommendations.
Yes.
Just watch Singing in the Rain. I haven't seen it. Just watch Singing in the Rain.
You haven't seen Singing in the Rain?
No.
Oh my god, I should have just had you watch Singing in the Rain, and we could have done that for Valentine's Day.
Maybe next year.
Yeah, it's a much better romance than A Star is Born.
Well, okay, I'm sure. But have you heard Everywhere?
Yes. No, yeah.
Everything. I keep saying Everywhere. That is a Fleetwood Mac song. Everything.
Yeah, it's everything.
And
but like,
I'll have everything.
all the music in this movie is great. Like I love the Chris Christopherson version.
You see why I thought it was romantic when I was mainly my main memory of it was seeing the musical moments and then just hearing the soundtrack.
That's why I think it should be an operetta or just like a shorter musical.
I don't necessarily agree with it being an opera because I think that would drag on. Just
make it a shorter musical.
Yes, just make it shorter.
Yeah.
And make the second half not just a bunch of scenes of the man being sad while the woman is off doing interesting things that we don't see.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Those are my.
So that's our problems with the Star is Born narrative.
Pitches.
But I mean, if you want to talk about the music, I think that's kind of where I'm going.
Mm-hmm. Music's incredible.
Because I'm now realizing that my main knowledge of the song is from just listening to it. I listen to it on the soundtrack, and then I have it on my music.
I'd never heard it.
Oh, it's so good. I don't think.
I had heard the big one that they sing together. Yeah. What is it, like Evergreen?
Evergreen. That's the song that won the Oscar. It's the only Oscar win that this movie got.
Yeah, I'd seen that one. Or I'd listened to that one.
Mm-hmm. And that's not even... My big three from this are Everything, Queen Bee, and Hellacious Acres, weirdly.
That's a good one. I like it.
Hellacious Acres is like a weird... That song should be... There's not that many Halloween songs, and that should be a Halloween song that people bring around. It's fun, and it's like...
It's fun, but like...
Dr. Jekyll, it's a Mr. Hyde.
it shouldn't have been so early into the movie. Or at least if it was, if it's gonna be so early into the movie, it should be like when he's good and not like.
Well, what I
sad.
realized is that this movie cuts off a lot of its music, which is why I was like, oh, she's gonna sing everything. Here we go. I remember this moment in the movie when she was about to start singing everything, when she was in the bar when we first meet her.
Oh yeah.
And she starts singing everything, and then all the men in this movie are insanely pushy and terrible.
Yeah, they're so annoying and patronizing.
This movie hates journalists.
Oh my god, that was so dumb.
It was so hateful. That DJ
was awful.
Who's a monster. That DJ took a helicopter, went over the guy's private property just to be like, hey, I love you. What? And then when Chris Christopherson got a gun and started shooting it at him, which, what? Was like weird, but like more understandable than getting a helicopter just to yell that you love somebody. The DJ guy got mad at Chris Christopherson.
Mm-hmm. And like when he punched him and stuff, the DJ guy was getting mad that like that Chris Christopherson punched him when the DJ was like all up in his face and like telling him that he's shit. Yeah.
And did it every time he saw it was just like, it was just her, like the men in this movie, and every side character in this movie pretty much is just horrific.
Yeah.
The only time this movie has nice moments is when it's just Barbra and Chris Christopherson.
Yeah. Okay, that's one thing I will say is an improvement in the 2018 version is in this movie there's always also a friend character to the male star who's supposed to be like his oldest friend, and he works for him now, but like still supposed to be supportive and whatever, and like the female character always goes to him for help in the second half of like, you're his oldest friend, you can talk to him, like help him get it out of
like,
this.
I've been trying to help him for years, it hasn't worked.
Yeah, and in every version I do not buy it except the 2018 version with Sam Elliott.
Yes.
And Sam Elliott has like an actual role to play in the movie.
Yeah.
And is good.
This guy, I did not realize they were even friends until Barbra was like, you're his friend. I was like, oh, I thought he was just a creep.
Every time
I thought he was the
Gary Busey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gary Busey's character's name is Bobby, and then the friend character's name is Brian, and I kept thinking that Brian was Gary Busey, and that it was so confusing.
And then also, I forgot that Gary Busey was like an actor.
I thought that he was kind of hot at one point.
I didn't go that far.
Okay. When he first appeared, I was like, who is that? Oh my god.
He kind of always looks like a scarecrow to me.
Really?
Yeah. Not in like a thin way. Like he just looks like he's made of hay.
I get that.
And straw.
Yeah. Okay. Chris Christopherson, though?
Incredibly sexy.
Very hot.
I got it.
I really understood it. Because, like, honestly, my main point of reference for Chris Christopherson was, like, his musical career. And then, like, my impression of him visually is Dolphin Tale. Where he's the grandfather in Dolphin Tale.
So not exactly this.
Yeah, so I didn't really have like a good image in my mind of what Chris Christopherson looked like at his peak. And when he walked on stage, I was like, whoa. He is a 70s movie star.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
It's the hair, the
hair was
beard,
perfect.
the tight pants, the loose shirts, like showing his chest.
Yeah.
It's hot.
He was hot.
Yeah.
And specifically in this movie, I got the chemistry. There was chemistry.
There was chemistry, yeah.
Even though Chris Christopherson said about Barbra Streisand after working with her in this movie, he said, filming with Streisand is an experience which may have cured me of the movies.
Yeah. So Barbra Streisand also was notoriously what men call difficult on set and what women call a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And she was a producer. She had the right to be, like, she was the producer and the star of the movie. Like, she can be
she's
a
the reason.
perfectionist.
She's the reason this movie happened.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, fuck off, Chris Christopherson. But yeah.
But I don't think it meant he hated her. He was just like, this is hard. And I also knew that Chris Christopherson apparently got in a fight with the director, because the male director, I don't remember his name.
It's Frank something.
Frank Pearson. Frank Pearson.
Thank you.
So Frank Pearson and Barbra Streisand fought, and Frank Pearson like wrote articles afterwards about his experience working with Barbra Streisand, about like how terrible she was. In like multiple papers, and they have like never talked ever again. And then Chris Christopherson and Frank Pearson. Well, Chris Christopherson, I guess, did have actual alcohol problems while he was filming this movie.
Yeah.
And he said it wasn't as extreme. Like, it wasn't as extreme, but it was like, no, he had problems. And so he said, like, he basically said, like, if I was more sober, I think we would have had more problems, because he was a World War II vet, and he had a problem with me because I didn't go to Vietnam, even though I was in the army.
Okay. I mean, like,
so
I understand like, that is, like, a common resentment among former veterans.
Yeah.
Or, like, among veterans, right? You're never a former veteran, because when you're a veteran, it means you were formerly in the army, in the military. When
you're a vet all the way.
Is that West Side Story?
Yes. Is that brilliant?
That was good. I'm glad
if I could remember any of the rest of the song, I would have sung it.
It was also perfect that you remembered it. Like, you sang it so quickly. I had to think of, like, is he replacing the word vet with jet with vet, or is he actually just singing a song that I don't know of that says vet? Yeah.
When you're a vet all the way. Yeah. I don't know the rest. So basically, like, the cocktail making this movie is that, like, the stars didn't really get along, the director didn't get along with the stars, and also Barbra Streisand directed several, like, smaller scenes in this movie, because Frank Pearson was like, no, we're not gonna do those, and Barbra was like, no, I want them done, and so she directed basically herself and, like, did them.
Yeah.
I don't know which specific scenes, but I kind of imagine it was some of the montages.
She did she also did direction for some of the musical performances as well, I think.
Yes, and I so appreciated the filming of the musical performances.
Oh,
because,
me too.
Something I have a problem with in recent cinema. God, blow my brains out. Cinema.
I say cinema.
I know, but I feel like you like actually know stuff about movies, and I'm just kind of talking.
I don't know anything.
In recent movies, there has been such an emphasis. Like, now that it is so easy to make cuts in film, people like do them much quicker, and it works. And in a lot of scenes, and I don't think it works as well when you're filming a musical performance.
Yeah, no.
If you're filming someone musically performing,
especially when it's supposed to be a live stage performance.
Yes, and that was my major problem with all the musical performances in the 2018 version, is I was like, nothing is building to anything, it's all just falling apart.
Also, in the 2018 version...
Let me look at Lady Gaga. Let me look at Lady Gaga. Stop showing Bradley Cooper. Let me look at, like...
In the 2018 version, almost all of the musical performances of Lady Gaga are, like, happening in the background, or they're, like, you see 30 seconds where the focus is solely on Gaga doing her performance, and then it shifts to Bradley Cooper doing something.
Yeah,
it's like
I don't care.
Fucking care. Ugh. Like that SNL performance.
Mm-hmm. Let the musical performances speak for themselves, and hire actors and actresses who are talented enough to carry them without doing all this nonsense. And that's what I really appreciate about this is, like, when we're seeing Barbra do the stars making moment, we're really seeing her do it, and it works. And at the end, we're really seeing her perform. and she's singing it's basically singing a eulogy for her dead husband. It really works.
And it's like mostly just her standing and singing, but like it's still incredibly compelling because you see her face and she's expressing emotion both through her face and through her voice in a way that only Barbra Streisand can do.
Yes.
Also, Judy Garland can do it too.
Yes. And Gaga could do if the movie let her.
Yes. If she was directed better, she could definitely do it too.
Well, honestly, I think she did do it. The movie cut away from her doing.
Yeah, true.
What am I talking about? Oh, I appreciated that this movie, the way the movie shot the musical performances.
Yeah.
And I think did a good job of, how did you feel about the beginning of this movie? The beginning concert where we first
I thought it was too long, but that song is a banger.
The one that always starts with like, I don't know where I am.
Yeah. Okay. The song that's
Am I dead?
Yeah, that's not it. What does it say? I think he says like, are you a figment of my imagination or am I a figment of yours?
Yeah.
And he like speaks that and then it goes into the song of like, watch me closely.
Yeah.
And the song.
Watch me now.
Yeah. Watch me now. That part is good. And that like, I wish I was like drinking cheap beer at a concert at like a dirty venue with a bunch of people around me, like a bunch of strangers rocking out to that song.
Really? Because when I was watching that, because I have seen that intro before, because it was part of the first half, and I did watch it. This time when I was watching it, I was like, "That looks disgusting."
It looked disgusting,
and
I miss
so
it
gross.
so much. It looked so gross, and I miss it.
All I could think of is how terribly it must have smelled.
Oh yeah, it's gonna smell like piss and beer. That smells like piss already.
And the people were just like throwing firecrackers in the stadium.
God, I want it.
So much. And then when Barbra sings that song at the end.
Yeah, it's all on her.
So
that venue probably smelled impeccable.
Yeah, that because it was like a theater.
Yeah.
And we're starting her rise into like eventual Broadway. Where does she go from here? I feel like
What do you mean? Where does she go?
Where does that character go? What's that character's next move?
Continues to be a chart topper. The movie doesn't care. And that's my issue. The movie doesn't care about what happens to the woman character after the male character dies. And like, we should care.
No, the answer is like, she'll be fine. And it's like, I kind of want to know.
Yeah, like, I want to know what happens. Like, I would also love a version of this movie where this story is compressed to like the first half hour and then the rest is just seeing the female character continue her career after like having lost her husband who was also famous.
Yeah.
Like there's just so many versions of this movie, of this story that could be very good where you don't focus on the guy who is boring.
It's so strange that we just keep coming back to this narrative of
yeah, like why do we care about this so much?
Why is this narrative become a multi-purpose, multiple times narrative? Like what I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, like, I understand coming back to it in the 50s of like, that was a very popular movie in the 30s. We should make it a musical starring one of the biggest stars ever. And then it like was a success, but then like why come back to it in the 70s?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then the 2018 version.
Do you know who wrote this movie?
Joan Didion.
Yeah, Joan Didion wrote this, and some guy.
Joan Didion. Like, okay, what? But guess who wrote the first version? Dorothy Parker.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Just incredible witty women.
Yeah.
Writing this movie that does not
work.
Does not work and does not show their best talents.
No.
And also, I feel like so many of the moments in this movie that really work don't feel written.
I feel like those moments are the moments that were written by Joan Didion.
Hopefully. Because it was, moments where where Chris Christopherson and Barbra Streisand, like, really click in with each other and are, like, laughing and giggling.
Where it's like you can really actually feel the chemistry between these two.
Yes, and you see why.
Yeah.
You see why they like each other.
That's the thing that also frustrates me of like, it takes so long to get to those moments where they are clicking of like, so I don't care about this guy and I don't understand what she sees in him until those moments, like more than half an hour, 45 minutes into the movie. And it just takes so long to get there.
Yeah.
That I do not care about, because I immediately care about the female character because she's interesting. But like the male character, I'm like, you are miserable and I can't help you as a viewer, so why do I want to keep watching you?
Yeah.
Like, this is torturous to me. Do I sound awful?
I mean, I think you're saying that like this story doesn't work because the character that is always the main focus is not growing and learning and doing interesting things. The character that should be focused on is pushed to the wayside so we can watch a man's tragedy.
Yeah. Or at least, like, have the male character learn stuff, and then maybe he'll be interesting.
Yeah.
But he doesn't.
Yeah.
He, like, pretends to, and then he falls back into his old ways, and...
Yeah, the 2018 version should have ended with Bradley Cooper's character joining The Voice.
No.
And
the
figuring
Masked
it
Singer.
out. The Masked Singer. Oh my...
He had fallen far.
Oh,
Mark.
no, yeah, he would have done it. He would have done it. He absolutely would have done The Masked Singer in, like, a year and a half.
Oh, my God. Yeah, do you want to talk about, like, fun stuff?
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, this movie was kind of, intended as a Carly Simon vehicle. And another like, guy who I'm forgetting now. But they, when they were first, like, conceiving this movie as another version, the people they considered for it were Cher, Liza Minnelli, Helen Reddy, and Diana Ross, and Barbra Streisand.
Interesting. Okay, I think some of those could work and some of those could not.
I don't know much about Helen Reddy. I don't know if she works in this.
Helen Reddy, I don't know that she's an actress. That she was an actress.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think she could act it out.
She could sing.
Maybe she's a secret. Yes.
Oh, sorry. One thing, super quickly. That one Everything song, or no,
yeah.
Evergreen.
Yeah.
That's the duet a little bit. I don't think their voices harmonize well together. I think Helen Reddy and Chris Christopherson could very well work together. Their voices.
That makes sense. So those were the four considered. I do think of those four. Liza Minnelli, I don't.
It would have been weird, and I don't know that she was.
I don't think she, even though she's great, and I think she's an incredible actress, I don't know if she works here.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think this...
At least not in this version.
Yeah.
Not in this, like, dusty... Liza Minnelli doesn't work in the desert.
Oh, no, not at all.
No. Yeah. Where'd Liza go? I don't know. Look for the sequin. Diana Ross...
Could do it.
I could do it.
Not with Chris Christopherson.
No, not with Chris Christopherson. And I do think that she kind of already does do it a little bit in Mahogany.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Both. Me neither. But I know, like, the plot of it is about her becoming a star and then having a fall from grace. So she kind of does both roles.
Even that story is more interesting to me already without knowing anything else.
And then Cher, I do think works.
Oh, yeah. Cher could do it exceptionally well. She could also do it with Chris Christopherson, I think.
Yes.
But I don't know if he would have allowed her to be taller than him, which she definitely is.
Yeah. So those are the women who were considered, and then Barbra got on board and, like, really got involved in it and chose it. And so Barbra originally wanted Marlon Brando or Elvis.
Interesting.
Yeah. Mick Jagger and Neil Diamond were considered, but Barbra really wanted...
Ooh, Neil Diamond would have been good.
Is he an actor?
I mean, like, he's always performing.
And with Elvis, she actually asked Elvis, like, in person, or like
weird.
Face to face, and I guess Elvis's longtime manager got mad that she went to Elvis instead of through him, and was like, no.
What did Elvis say?
I think I think Elvis had well, he hadn't acted in a movie since 1969.
Yeah.
Um
Okay, that's not too long.
yeah, but that's like 7-8 years, and he's
Yeah.
older by then, and it
He
was
dies
kind of like
only a few years later, right?
exactly, yeah. Something I want to talk about is
Yeah, we should talk about this movie.
Barbara Streisand's hair.
Yes.
I'm glad they never changed it.
Oh, me too.
It was every time it was in any kind of light, it just shone.
Yeah, it's so big. I love it.
Yeah. It just was a beautiful halo.
Yeah.
And it adds to the performance.
Oh, yeah.
Good hair adds to every performance, and hers felt like I guess sometimes I think people underestimate hair.
Oh, I mean, like,
In
I've said
terms
this
of a
before.
performance. Yeah.
Like, if
And
your hair is good, it can improve any day.
Yeah, and especially since so much of this movie spends in close-ups on her,
Mm-hmm.
all that extra personality it adds is just helpful. And when she's performing, and it's a close-up of her face, and the lights are lighting up her hair, and,
Yeah.
and she's feeling it in the moment, and she's singing, and her voice is gorgeous. It's a moment.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Especially when she's got that pink spotlight,
Yeah.
which she has multiple times throughout the movie.
Yeah, it's good.
It's good.
Or when she gets married and she has all the white flowers.
Yes, that was so pretty. Did you know
I kind of loved that wedding.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of
It was
very
terrible.
cute.
I don't want it for myself. But the wedding where they're like, they're
It's
both just
also
outside.
something that happens in all of the versions is that they elope.
Oh.
They elope, and it's a very quick wedding.
Yeah. And I like that the lady at the courthouse was like, I'm already pushing it, doing this outside.
Yeah.
And then, like, as soon as she did it, she, like, left. She's like, I gotta go.
She's like,
and then she's
here's
like, here's
your
your
gift.
Bye. I gotta... That was just a weird...
Yeah.
They didn't need to make that funny, but they did. Barbra Streisand is interesting.
I don't know enough about Barbra Streisand.
That's kind of what this made me realize.
Yeah. Oh,
Is
no,
that
I also
I just-
realized this during
Like,
the movie.
I think I need to. I mean, the only things I've seen, the specific Barbra Streisand movies I've seen. Well, this, Hello Dolly, which people are famously like she was too young for,
Yeah.
and then the Guilt Trip, where she's Seth Rogen's mom.
Oh, that's such a funny title. It's a good title.
My mom loves that movie.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Oh my god, she dated Andre Agassi?
I guess.
She
I mean,
dated
Barbra
Andre
Streisand's-
Agassi from 1992 to 1993. Writing about the relationship in his 2009 autobiography, which my dad definitely read, Agassi said, "We agree that we're good for each other, and so what if she's 28 years older? We're simpatico, and the public outcry only adds spice to our connection.
Oh my
It makes our
God.
friendship feel forbidden, taboo, another piece of my overall rebellion. Dating Barbra
Okay.
Streisand is like wearing hot lava."
Okay.
They dated for a
Barbra-
year.
Oh my god, that is too much to write about someone you dated for a year.
Yeah.
Barbra Streisand is a legitimate star
Oh, yeah.
in every vehicle. In movies, in music, in TV, in Broadway. And she's just you can't look away from her. And she's incredible and also crazy.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know, like, about the McDonald's in her house or whatever.
Well, also she has cloned her dog multiple times.
Yeah.
And she has, she's just, she's Barbara damn Streisand.
Yeah. She's good.
Wait, does she not have a Tony?
Does she not have a Tony?
I don't think so.
I totally thought she was an EGOT.
I think she might be a technical EGOT where they gave her, like, an honorary award.
Interesting.
Honestly, I thought she would have done more Broadway than it looks like on her career.
Yeah, she
I need to
doesn't have a
learn more
Tony.
about Barbra Streisand.
She
Yeah,
do-
that's crazy.
Oh my god.
I think we just assume so much about Barbra Streisand, and I'm realizing I know so little about her.
Oh yeah.
She's crazy. She makes her own choices. She has enough power and presence to get them through, even in a world that in many ways did not want her to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the thing about her is also that every young Broadway starlet, when they first get on Broadway and like storm the stage and everyone's talking about them, will always be compared to Barbra Streisand. Mm-hmm. The most recent example I can think of is Cynthia Erivo.
Yeah, especially if they do that jump to movies.
Yeah. And this movie, while a flawed movie in many respects, does show why Barbra Streisand is great.
Yes, it is a good showcase for Barbra Streisand. I don't think it's a good showcase of a romantic story.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Sure.
Then let's talk about it. Okay, I have my moment. I can go first if you want.
Yeah, you go first.
Okay. My Grin Meter Res moment is the song Queen Bee.
Okay, that's like the first song she sings, right?
Yes, it's the first song we see. It's the first, and from the moment where the camera starts on like the back of the stage, and it starts on the two backup singers of the Oreos, the band, the group
not a
the
good
Oreos.
name.
As they're singing like the boom sap boom choo boom sap boom choo choo, and then they like go away, and Barbra Streisand comes up.
Yeah,
up into
that was
frame,
really cool. Like
pops up and slowly, boom, zap, boom, boom, and you see her hair first, and then
like she opens her mouth, and it's incredible. I really like that those two other singers that are never given names. Yeah, they're with her the whole time, and like even at the end, like the Chris Christopherson memorial, like they still are singing there with her.
Yes, I like that. But that moment, I love that song. That song is my favorite song in the movie, and it's the song that my mom and I have sung the most, maybe.
Okay.
Ever, like of every song, that's probably the song that me and my mom have sung together the most.
Interesting.
And I there was a time when I could sing every word off the top of my head, and I think I can only do the first verse now.
It's a really good song.
And the thing that annoys me in this movie is that it's kind of interrupted by Chris Christopherson. But it's not as bad as when she sings everything, and it's completely derailed by him getting in a fight, and it's just that terrible man talking.
Yeah.
That was my Grin Meter Res moment. It makes me smile.
Yeah, it's good.
What's yours?
My Grin Media Res moment is like the songwriting session at the beginning of their romance.
That's really cute.
I thought it was so hot.
Okay.
Like
we use different adjectives.
Like if the movie was more of that, it would be like, this is good for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
You could really see their chemistry. The music that they're writing is actually very good.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's probably the closest I came to a smile this movie.
Oh, ouch.
That wasn't fully a like Barbra Streisand singing alone.
Got it.
Yeah.
Understandable. So that's A Star Is Born. I'm sorry?
I mean, I don't know who you're apologizing to me or the audience.
You.
To me?
Yeah, I don't think we have an audience. But
you don't have to apologize. I mean, I wanted to see this movie anyway. Like,
yeah, you completed the Star Is Born, and now you never have to watch any of them again.
Yeah, I never
until
will.
20 years from now when another one comes out.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm definitely gonna be watching like clips from this movie, like the concert clips.
Yeah.
The musical
or find like
performances.
Barbra singing the songs not from this movie.
Oh yeah, like on
her own concert.
Yes.
Well, that's A Star Is Born. Watch it if you want to complete the Star Is Born trio, or if you want to talk to me about the music. But otherwise, it's kind of a mess.
That's our discussion of A Star Is Born. Happy Valentine's Day in a week.
Yeah. Good luck. Have fun. Be safe.
Maybe don't watch this movie with your romantic partner. But, like, if you want to feel miserable and, like, wallow in your loneliness on Valentine's Day, sure, watch it.
Yeah, watch Chris Christopherson die. Happy Stars Born.
Yeah. In 2 weeks, we'll be back with the first season of BoJack Horseman.
Bye.
Bye. All right. I think we're done.
Yeah, I'm tired.
Please like this. Please like this. Please like this.